Nice to meet you.
Yes, we have been expecting you.
Well done.
To join us.
Nice meeting you, members of the media. I greet you all.
Austin.
You gave active.
Joshua. All right, where water?
Just drop the bag.
What is that? No, that is. No, come on, go ahead. We're not waiting.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Yet, the cross-examination of the second prosecution witness was concluded today, and the court has adjourned the matter for 6 days. We're back on the 28th of May, the 29th of May, 6 June, 16 June, 18 June, and 19 June for the prosecution to continue to present their case. And that's good.
With the pace that the government is going, are you satisfied? No, we have said enough. Your name is
Uchen Nanjaka.
On ollut epäonnistunut yritys alusta asti. Siellä on korruptio politiikassa ja rikollisuus koko maassa ovat vuosikymmeniä saatossa vain pahentuneet. Biafra kanssa haluaa sanottua tällaisesta irti ja perustettavaksi vapaan demokraattisen valtion. Eli haluaa oma demokraattisen valtio, jossa valitsee yrittämisen vapaus ja uskonnollinen toleranssi. Kaikki uskontojen kohtaan, jossa on suora kansainvälinen valittu parlamentti, riippumaton tuomioistuinlaitos, oma asevelvollisuuteen perustuva armeija. Monipuoluejärjestelmä, ja jossa ihmisoikeuksia kunnioitetaan ja valitaan. Tällä hetkellä sellainen ei ole Nigeriassa ollenkaan. Se on toiminut vuosikymmeniä. Ja UK on ihmisoikeussopimus, lapsen oikeuksien yleissopimus ja KP-sopimus tuleva olemaan.
For the USB to be achieved through diplomacy, peaceful protest, and international recognition, we want to establish a society that respects human rights and rule of law. Terrorism has no place in my vision. So Tifo continued by saying, you have been accused of using coded languages that could be interpreted as a call to arms. How do you respond to that? Simon replied intelligently by saying, yeah, I understand that my words may be interpreted differently by different people, but I have never intended to incite violence. I have always advocated for peaceful methods of achieving our goals. Any alleged coded language is simply an attempt to misrepresent my message. Hope you all are paying attention to these conversations between Tifo and Mr. Simon. So Simon is stating categorically that my statement over time has been peaceful. My statement is to have a peaceful dialogue with the government of Nigeria. My aim and ambition is to actualize this USB without any form of violence. Yes. So Tifo continued by saying, but the timing of your statement and the actions of your followers raise serious questions. How can you deny any connection? Simon continued or responded by saying, I'm not denying that there are individuals who may have been inspired by my words, but that does not make me responsible for their actions. I am a content creator, not a terrorist. My aim is to inform and inspire, not to incite violence. As you can see, this is a wonderful rendition coming from Simon. He has answered all of the questions coming from this witness cleanly. And mind you, this witness is a police officer. Yes, this guy he investigated Simon. He led the department that investigated Simon and every other single thing within. So he knew what he was supposed to ask. He knew the kind of questions he should ask. And I'm pretty sure he was anticipating these responses coming from Simon, because after this whole conversation, that is when Tifo started to hit Simon decisively with pure proofs and pure evidence. this is a massive one. This is a very, very interesting one. This happens to be one of the most interesting days in the courtroom. Yes. So at this point, T4 brought out a document, a different set of documents from that Exhibit 1. And this is where he started throwing direct punches at Simon. This is when he started bringing out tweets, very, very inciting tweets of Simon that it's going to be very, very difficult to dodge, very, very difficult to try to defend. So the question here is, what are the tweets this man brought before the courtroom? Well, let me give you a quick summary of the tweets he brought. He brought up a tweet from the 24th of October of 2024 when Simon made a very, very inciting statement, when Simon claimed that he has banned a government building project in Imo State. Yes, so this man brought up this particular tweet, which Simon did not expect to see. Simon wasn't expecting to see an old tweet that probably has forgotten resurface in the courtroom. And this is how things got really, really interesting and intense. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications, because this is where you will get updates. You will get full transcript and full and detailed breakdown of every single thing that will happen or transpire in the courtroom session. So subscribe and turn on post notifications, and don't forget to like this particular video. So now let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit, and let's see how Simon will possibly respond or reply to the allegations that will be brought before him. Yes, so one thing you should know, that Simon wasn't expecting what was coming up next. He wasn't expecting the kind of questions and tweets that will be brought before him. So let's see all of these tweets and see how it was handled. So back in the courtroom, witness codename T4 started by saying, on October of 2024, where you announced a ban on government building projects in Imo, in your own words, you claim, for the security of the USB citizens, there will be no further building projects by the Nigeria terrorist government in Imo State, Nigeria from today, whether directly or by proxy. Every building project is banned, and the USB government will rebuild Imo. You will never bring in Boko Haram to train in Imo State. And these are the words coming from T4, where he claimed that Simon, sometime in October of 2024, he stopped a building construction project in Imo State, stating that he doesn't want the federal government of Nigeria to continue with that project. At this point, Simon was visibly very angry, and the way and manner he was looking at this T4, the testifier, it felt like he was going to probably slap him at any point in time. So Simon responded by saying, that's taken out of context. I'm a content creator. I was expressing my concerns about the situation in Imo State and the potential for further unrest. I was speaking metaphorically and not literally. As you can see, this doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. Simon was trying to give reasons why he stopped the construction project in Imo State, and his reasons did not even sit well. He was saying this is a metaphor and not in a real sense. If he wanted to make it a metaphor, he should have added it in his tweet, but he did not. So this gave T4 the ample opportunity to jump in and to probably push Simon in the corner. So let's go back to the courtroom. T4 replied by saying, metaphorically, the statement explicitly bans building projects and declares a Biafran government will rebuild. This sounds like a direct call to action, potentially inciting violence against those involved in the construction project. Simon replied by saying, no, it's satire. This is actually very funny, because the moment we're making this particular video, when we got to this point where Simon said, no, it's satire, it's it's actually very funny in its real sense. See, don't criticize me. I'm yet to present everything said the way it is. If I laugh or if I react in a certain way, it's because we felt that way while trying to make this video and while recording this video. And I think you guys would want me to be real and give you my real reactions to this statement. And that is why we had to leave all of the laughs in and leave all of our reactions in. So Simon was like, when T4 made a statement that metaphorically, the statement explicitly bans building project and declares a Biafra government will rebuild it. This sounds like a direct call to action, potentially inciting violence against those involved in construction project. Simon responded by saying, no, it's satire. It's commentary on the political situation. People understand that it's freedom of speech. I was expressing my opinion. I have many followers who understands my style of communication. They know I wouldn't actually incite violence. This doesn't make sense. We feel like it doesn't make sense because how can you say this is satire? How can you say this is metaphor? And how can you say you don't mean it in the literal sense? This cannot fly. But then, let's go back to the courtroom and see what follows suit. T4 replied by saying, but the tweet uses strong language, labeling the Nigerian government a terrorist and threatening to stop building projects. This could easily be interpreted as a threat and could inspire others to take actions. And these are the words of T4, which, like I said, is a police officer. Simon, please don't say these things, please. Simon replied by saying, it's hyperbole. It's a way to grab attention. My followers know I'm not advocating violence. I'm simply highlighting the concerns of many Biafrans. I will never encourage anyone to break the law. So Simon has been using different forms of figures of speech. He has used satire, he has used hyperbole, he has used a metaphor, and he also used the word literally. So let's see what else this guy has to say to defend himself, because figures of speech will not save you in the court of law. Because if you want to make a figurative speech, what you should do is, after writing the speech, you can probably write at the bottom part, this is a metaphor, or this is an oxymoron, or hyperbole, or this is an irony, So coming to the court of law to say that your speech or your tweets are hyperboles, metaphor, and all of those figures of speech, I don't think it makes sense. It might make sense to you listening at home, but from a critical point of view, it is not adding up, and Simon shouldn't say things like that. At this point, we wanted Simon's lawyer to jump in because clearly, as you can see, Simon isn't doing well in his responses now. So we are thinking his lawyer would jump in and probably cut off this conversation, but we don't know why he allowed it to continue. Well, let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit. So T4 continued by saying, however, the tweet directly mentions the prevention of building projects, which is a direct action. Your statement about Boko Haram is also concerning. How does this relate to your commentary on political situation? Simon continued by saying, I was highlighting fears that external forces might be involved in the conflict. It's a common concern among many people in the region. It was not a call to violence, but an expression of worry about the security situation. So T4 continued by saying, your statement is still inflammatory and could be seen as a call to action. We have evidence that your tweet was shared widely and may have contributed to the escalation of tensions in the southeastern region of Nigeria. Simon replied by saying, I understand your concerns, but I maintain that my intent was not to incite violence. My post was intended as commentary, not a call to arms. I'm a content creator, and this was just one of my many posts expressing my opinions. I regret if it was misinterpreted. So at this point, as you can see, Simon has gradually started taking blame. We expected, or we think his lawyer will jump in and assist him, because as you can clearly see, this man is struggling. This man has been messing up. He has been making a lot of funny statements and claims by saying that his actions are figurative statements and not in its real sense. As a lawyer, as a legal-minded individual, when you see or when you hear that your client is not saying the right things, what we should do at that point in time is to jump in and probably try to direct the conversations to you. Yes, you can try to direct the questions and conversations to you and not your client, because your client is not saying the right things. Your client has been making mistakes, making very, very funny comments, and making comments that will definitely not fly. So we don't know why Simon's lawyer was just there seated and watching, enjoying the whole conversation coming from his client. And then the next conversations had between T4 and Simon got really, really intense, that we think probably this can be the very first point that will go to the prosecuting lawyer. Yes, we think that this is where Simon was nailed properly with the questions, and we're still wondering why his lawyer did not step in to try to, one way or the other, calm the situations down. Well, what's really happened, what played out in the courtroom? Well, T4, this police officer, brought up the issue of a 30-day sit at home, a declaration which was made by Simon himself, a statement which was signed by Simon. And this is the point where Simon cannot try to deny or try to use a figurative speech to use as his a possible reason why he made that 30-day sit at home. This is where things got really, really intense for Simon. And we are still wondering why his lawyer did not jump in and try to calm things down. So the question here is, what really happened next? Well, sit back, relax, and enjoy, because like I said, this is going to be a very, very exciting one and a roller coaster ride going forward. Yes. So what really happened? It's very, very simple. Around 24th of August of 2024, Mr. Simon gave a 30-day sit at home for a particular feast or event in the southeastern region of Nigeria. Yes, which was a mandate. He made that sit at home compulsory. Like everybody must follow suit. Everybody must respect it. And this is the particular tweet T4 brought to the courtroom that he wanted to use, or he used in nailing Simon. And Simon's lawyer had no response to it. Even Simon himself struggled to answer his question. So let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit. Let's go back and have a clear course of conversations between T4, a testifier, and also a police officer, and Simon, who is the suspect and defendant. Let's hear what these guys have to say. But then, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications to get latest updates as it unfolds. So let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit immediately. So T4 continued by saying, on the 24th of August of 2024, you announced a 30-day lockdown of Nigerian government offices in Southeast, where it reads, at this point now, T4 started reading a tweet coming from Simon itself. It reads, the Biafran government has just approved the lockdown of Nigerian institutions in some parts of Biafra land following the continued killings of Christians and Biafrans within Biafra territory, invasions of churches, abducting worshippers. The USB government has decided to lock down the following Nigerian institutions in some part of USB land territory from 30 days, from the 28th of August of 2024 up until the 26th of September of 2024. We demand total withdrawal of all Nigerian security forces from the USB territory. We demand the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and other USB citizens that are being detained in various locations in Nigeria, including in far north. So after T4 read out this tweet, he asked Simon, what does this mean to you? Simon replied by saying, T4, this tweet reflects the urgent need to address the ongoing violence against Christians and USB in our territory. The lockdown is a response to the continued unaliving and abductions that have been happening. It's a way to protect our life and our people. T4 continued by saying, but declaring a lockdown on Nigerian institutions sounds quite drastic. How do you justify such a measure? Isn't it likely to escalate tensions further? Simon replied by saying, I understand your concern, but the situation is dire. We feel that the presence of Nigerian security forces exacerbates the violence. By demanding their withdrawal, we aim to create a safer environment for our people. This is about self-defense and ensuring our voices are heard. T4 continued by saying, you also mentioned the demand for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and other detained USB citizens. How does this relate to the lockdown? Simon continued by saying, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a significant figure for many USB citizens. His detention symbolizes the oppression we face. By linking the lockdown to his release, we are highlighting the broader struggle for our rights and freedoms. It's about standing up against injustice. T4 continued by saying, some might argue that your tweet could be interpreted as inciting unrest. How do you respond to those who see it as a call to action and could lead to violence? Simon responded by saying, I see it as a call for awareness and solidarity. The intent is not to incite violence, but to rally support for our cause. We want to draw attention to the plight of our people and the need for change. It's about raising our voices peacefully. Then T4 went ahead to say, however, the language used in your tweet is quite strong. Phrases like lockdown and demand total withdrawal can be seen as confrontational. Do you think this could alienate potential allies? Simon replied by saying, I believe in being direct about our needs. The situation requires urgency, and sometimes strong language is necessary to convey the seriousness of our plight. We are not looking to alienate anyone. We want to unite those who care about justice for the USB citizens. T4 replied by saying, "Thank you for your insight, Simon. The court will consider the implications of your statement and their potential impact on the public order." As you can see, T4 said he wants to leave that for the court and for the judge to determine that he's just a witness who is here to testify against him, but he doesn't want to take any form of conclusion, but he wants the judge to do the conclusion by himself. So back to the courtroom, Simon's lawyer had to step in immediately. Yes, he has noticed that T4 has put or placed Simon in a very, very uncomfortable position, and this is where he jumped in, something he should have done minutes back and not just now. Your client is struggling to answer questions. Why are you there seated? Why are you there just watching him suffer? You should have jumped in a long time ago and tried to direct or redirect all these questions to you. So Simon's lawyer had to step in immediately by saying, "The prosecution's case rests on misinterpretation of my client's social media posts. While the language used may have been strong, it was intended as political commentary and an expression of deep concern regarding the ongoing violence and human rights abuses in the region. The post should be viewed within the context of a long history and oppression and marginalization, not as a direct incitement to violence." As you can see, this is a very, very clear statement coming from Simon's lawyer. He was trying to move or shift the direction or the attention or tension to himself. This is something you should have done a long time ago. This is where we have problem with the whole thing, the whole settings. You should have done this a long time ago and not just sit back there, relax and enjoy while your client is being asked very, very sensitive questions and you were just seated waiting. Why were you waiting for this time before you jump in? Why were you waiting for him to reach to this point, to get to this point where he has said a lot of funny things? He has placed himself in a very, very tight corner, in a very, very serious position where the judge now clearly have seen what to pin him down with. Like I said, this is a point on the prosecuting legal counsel team, 100%. This is a point to the legal counsel team, and we don't know how Simon and his lawyer would get out from this particular pit that they have collectively dug for themselves. Well, let's go back to the courtroom and see what followed suit, because that is not all. Let's see what followed suit and see the conversations that happened. Now, T4 continued. So T4 came out to say, no, T4 now has a different evidence to present. Yes. T4, first off, he went to the prosecuting lawyer to pick up a document, and he came back to his stance. He brought up a new document that he wants to present against Simon. So what is this document and how will it be used against Simon? So T4 continued by saying, on the 13th of July of 2023, Ohaneze faction announces a $500,000 bounty on you, Simon, and they accuse you of causing series of unrest in the southeastern part of Nigeria. T4 also continued by saying, Mr. Simon, you are charged with inciting violence in southeast Nigeria. I would like to bring your attention to a recent news article where the Ohaneze faction announced a $500,000 bounty, a US dollars bounty on Simon, accusing him of declaring a second USB war. How do you respond to these serious allegations? Simon continued by saying, Thank you, T4. First, I want to clarify that I am not that individual that was represented by this Ohaneze group. I'm a different individual entirely. However, I understand the gravity of the situation and the concerns surrounding the ongoing conflict in that region, which cannot be linked to me. T4 said, I appreciate the clarification, but the article indicates that the Ohaneze faction believes that individual known as Simon in this particular news article is currently or once upon a time incited violence in the region. They claim that his actions have led to unrest in the Southeast. Do you think your statement on social media could be interpreted in a similar light? So they're asking him a very, very tricky question. Let's see what Simon responded with. Simon replied by saying, I believe my statements are rooted in expressing the frustrations and concerns of the USB people. While I understand that strong language can be misinterpreted, my intent has always been to advocate for peace and justice, not to incite violence. So as you can clearly see, Simon yet again has been placed in a very, very tight corner. He has been placed in a situation where he will need the experience and the legal minds of his attorney to jump in and assist him. But yet again, this man did not come in. I feel like this man is probably working with the prosecuting lawyer, and this man wants to send Simon to jail. Why will you sit back there and allow your client to receive this kind of questionings and allegations coming from a testifier? You understand, this is coming from a testifier and not a lawyer, the prosecuting lawyer. So this guy has no right. He has a right, but to ask deep questions like this should be done by the lawyer. And you, being a legal-minded individual, knows that these questions are too intense and deep. You should have jumped in, tried to calm the whole situation, and try to redirect the question to somebody else, or probably to yourself as a lawyer. But sitting back there, enjoying the whole conversations, enjoying the whole debate, enjoying the whole interview is totally very, very wrong from the side of this lawyer. So yes, what do you think about this whole court hearings? And that is not even all. T4, the witness, also continued to still fire Simon with very, very sensitive questions. And we're expecting this man, the lawyer, to jump in and calm them down. So what followed suit afterwards? We have to go back to the courtroom, definitely, to see how the whole conversations was done and carried out. And let's see what Simon's lawyer had to do towards the ending of that conversation. So let's go back to the courtroom and see what transpired and what really played out between Simon and T4. So in the courtroom, T4 continued by saying, the article mentions that the Ohanese faction is resolute in capturing Simon, which is you, and bringing him to justice, given the tensions in the region. Do you think your comments could contribute to a similar atmosphere of hostility? Simon responded by saying, I see where you are coming from, but I maintain that my posts are meant to raise awareness about the plight of the USB citizens. The situation is complex, and while I acknowledge that emotions run high, my goal is to foster dialogue, not conflict. T4 continued by saying, however, the language used in your post has been described as inflammatory. The bounty placed on you suggests that there are serious concerns about the potential for violence. How do you reconcile your desire for dialogue with the reality of escalating tensions? Simon responded by saying, I understand my words can be powerful impacts, and I take that responsibility seriously. My intention is not to highlight injustice and advocate for the rights of my people. I believe that peaceful activism can lead to change and would never endorse violence as its situation or solution. T4 continued by saying, the court will consider the implications of your statement in light of the current climate in the Southeast Nigeria. Do you have any final thoughts on how you can contribute to a peaceful resolution? Simon claimed that I am committed to promoting peace and understanding. I hope to engage with all parties involved to find common ground and work towards a solution that respects the rights of dignity of the USB people without restoring to violence. Yes, these are the words coming from Simon. As you can clearly see, this man now is not trying to foster peace. He's now opting to use peace, a peaceful dialogue, to see to the actualization of the USB. These are his reactions from the court of law today. This is a very, very interesting one. The conversation between T4 and Simon became very intense and emotional that even the judge had to step back and listen. The lawyers from the two different parties were all seated and listening. And Simon now is trying to foster peace. He's saying that I can definitely, if I have the chance, I will definitely speak on peace more. You understand? I will speak on peace. I will try to escalate peaceful resolutions. Yes, I will try to use peaceful words in my tweet. I will stop using figures of speech. I will take out the hyperboles, the satire, the oxymoron, and whatsoever. But now I will implement peaceful resolutions. in my form of approach. And this was the conclusion of what Simon presented in the courtroom today. This happens to be a very, very interesting conversation between T4 and Simon. And the judge concluded by saying he has listened. I've listened to all of your rendition. I've listened to you, T4. I've listened to you, Simon, and I've heard every single thing you guys have to say. But then in subsequent days, we are going to follow suit. And the judge gave a different date. He fixed a different date for the continuation of this case. Wow, this is a very, very interesting one, as you can all clearly see. Kudos to everybody involved in this peaceful form of approach. Yes, but we think Simon's lawyer should do more next time. If you see your client is struggling, you have to step in. Try. You're a lawyer for a reason. You're being paid. You are hired for a reason. Step in and try to calm the whole situation. Step in and try to direct the heat to you and not your client. Because if anybody is going to be sentenced here, it's your client and not you. So you feel free to take up all of the heat and feel free to be proactive in nature. Yes. So this is what every single thing that transpired or played out in the court of law today, which I said kicked off around 9 a.m. this morning. And in subsequent days, a follow-up court hearings will be presented in the court of law. Anyways, moving on swiftly, the moment all of these things were playing out in the courtroom, Simon behind the scenes has issued or sued or filed a lawsuit against an individual, one of his very close friends. So we're wondering how or why will Simon file a lawsuit against his close friend, his close cabinet member? Why will you file a lawsuit? Well, in our previous video, we exposed every single details why Simon went a step further, went to the step or to the stage of trying to file a lawsuit on his very close friend. What are the reasons and why did this man execute such an action? Well, in our previous video, we extensively expose and discuss every single thing that has happened behind the scenes and why Simon was forced to do what he did. So if you want to watch that video and get full updates and a better picture and clarity, if you want to watch that video and get an illustrative clarification, we have that video showing right now on your screen. So click on this video to watch another.
Now let us go to today's breaking news. As Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer, IPOB have come out to tell Nigerian government and international communities that the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has no case to answer. And that is true. That is actually true. As we also know and believe, even though the DOS might not want to talk about it, that Simon Èkpá Njoku also has no case to answer. And we have been seeing how the court in the case of Mazi Simon Èkpá also has been going, and we are hoping and being optimistic that it will go in favor of Mazi Simon Èkpá and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. This week is going to be a very critical week because a lot of cases will be handled and critical decisions and judgments will be made. Nnamdi Kanu's case is coming up. Mazi Simon Èkpá case is also coming up on the 11th. Now let us continue with the news. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has told the international community and Nigerian government that its leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is a prisoner of conscience and has no case to answer. The group said the continued prosecution of Kanu on bogus charges bordering on treasonable felony and terrorism is a gross violation of his fundamental rights. IPOB stated this in a statement signed by Media and Publicity Secretary, Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, Mapowerful, on Saturday in Abuja. The group said they are not only begging for mercy but are demanding for justice. The statement reads in part, "We call on Nigerians, the international communities, and all lovers of justice to heed this clarion call. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer. The continued persecution of our leader is not only a gross violation of his fundamental right, but also an indictment of Nigeria's judiciary, which has descended into a cesspool of judicial terrorism and criminal dereliction of duty. For too long, Nigerians have been misled by a false narrative propagated by the Nigerian state and its media accomplice, claiming that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu face charges of treason or terrorism. Let us set the record straight. The treasonable felony charges against our leader were struck out years ago when the former Attorney General Abubakar Malami realized the case was unwinnable. No treason was committed, and that is actually true. And also we have seen, Mazi Simon Èkpá Njoku. Yeah, let's just to talk a little bit of that. We've seen Mazi Simon Èkpá Njoku pull strong weight in Finland, during this court trial. We're going to continue the court trial this week. And honestly, this week is going to be a critical week, because a lot of things will be reviewed, a lot of judgment, like I said earlier, will be made. But in all this, one thing we are praying for and we are hoping for is that let this whole tactics delay of the Zoo government of denying justice to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu stop, and also let the Finnish authorities do the needful, in the immediate release of Mazi Simon Èkpá, even as international communities begin to put interest in the cases of these powerful men. That's all it be for our mouth. Thank you once again for joining us on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. Make sure you share this video and make it go viral.